That's hard because the pain from endometriosis is worse. People have compared it to childbirth. Like there have been people who have endometriosis that have given birth and have said like it felt exactly the same. And being a kid and experiencing that and not knowing why, and the people around you not really showing urgency, that was very hard. And it kind of instilled in me a hyper independence, a kind of like, you need to depend on you because you will believe you know how bad this is. And I've seen people talk lately about how the tools that got you to a certain place, sometimes you need to let go of them. Like they're not going to help you moving forward. So I'm trying to dismantle or like let go a bit of my hyper independence. I need to do this myself because I do have people who will help me and who believe me.
All right, so how would you define pain?
Significant discomfort.
Just right into it.
Just significant uncomfortableness. I feel like those words aren't strong enough. I guess your body screaming at you that something is wrong. Yeah.
What would you say is the difference between pain versus chronic pain?
Chronic pain doesn't end and there isn't a solution. Like people think of illness as something that you either die from or you get well from. And people don't think that some things just don't have a solution and you just gotta manage it the best you can. And there's kind of the assumption with people who don't have chronic pain that if you're living with chronic pain day in and day out, it can't be as severe, like your symptoms can't be as severe as someone who has like cancer or I don't know, just something serious that can kill you. But that is unfortunately not true.
What would you say your relationship with pain is?
An unwanted alliance. Like it's here and I can't get rid of it and I don't want to die, so I just gotta live with it the best I can.
What pain are you diagnosed with?
The ones that most significantly affect my life are endometriosis and fibromyalgia. I also found out I have scoliosis and degenerative disc disease, which is basically arthritis in your back. But I have found that a lot of people, before they develop fibromyalgia, they have back pains. I don't know if or how those things are related. But yeah, those two, fibromyalgia and endometriosis, are kind of like my day-to-day war.
What are your feelings on people who think they can fix you?
Go away. I just go away. Like I've encountered so many people who are just like, well, you just need to, or they'll bring up things that everyone's heard of, like yoga. Like you think yoga is a revolutionary suggestion that I've never heard of. I think people have a subconscious assumption that if you're still in pain, it is because you have not tried enough or you haven't tried the right things. And sometimes that's true, but I can assure you that if something's going to fix me, it's not yoga. And unfortunately, a lot of the conditions I have are ones that are primarily or mostly suffered by women. And the medical community tends to not care about that, which is kind of weird because endometriosis can prevent you from being able to have kids, and you would think that would be your priority. But I guess for people who think they can fix me, do you mean like doctors or just people?
The average person.
Get out of my face. I've had fibro since I was like 27, and I'm 33 now. And it kind of gets exhausting because you kind of end up having the same conversations with people. Like, oh, well, things will get better. Well, you just have to, well, make sure you're staying positive. And sometimes shit just sucks. And that's how it is.
When you discovered something was wrong with you, how would you say your family originally handled it?
With the endometriosis, they took me to my primary care because I was like 11. And my primary care said, well, the only thing I could give her is birth control, and we can't do that till she's 14. So, and that was it. And my family kind of took my doctor didn't take it seriously, so my family didn't think that there was something like seriously wrong. They knew I was in pain, and they would try to help me when I was in pain. And then there were some family members that kind of was like, okay, you need to get up, and we're not coming to get you from school. It kind of ran the gamut between you're in pain, but maybe this is just something you have to deal with, to, yeah, you're just going to have to go ahead and do what you need to do. We did try certain things like heating pads and stuff like that, but I had a year that my period was normal, and I think if I didn't have that, I may have also believed that maybe, this is just how life is. But I had a year where I could take like ibuprofen or whatever and be fine, and then it just changed. With the fibromyalgia, I had already gotten my endometriosis, what's it called? Fibro also, there's a thing called brain fog, which kind of makes you forget things, like words. Diagnosis. I had already gotten my endometriosis diagnosis. So they believed me a little bit more, because of the pain, the amount of pain that I'd been in. If I'm in more pain, it's like, okay, what's going on? So they took me a little more seriously then. And I will say that a couple of my family members have apologized to me for, not really taking my pain seriously enough, because they only took me, originally they only took me to see one doctor, and then it was like, oh, okay. But then when I got older, I wanted to try to see more doctors, so I just kept going to doctors and telling them what was happening. And then finally one was like, okay, well, I think you have endometriosis. And that was a big deal.
Was that scary to have to self-advocate for yourself at such a young age?
It was very scary. I think it got scarier after I knew there was something wrong, because since no one else took it seriously, there was a part of me that thought maybe I have a low pain tolerance. Maybe, this is just how life is and I have to deal with it. And then after I found out I had endometriosis and I learned about it, and it was like, oh, this is a disease that has no cure. You're going to have surgery, and you're going to have to keep having surgeries, and it's going to keep coming back, and you're not going to know when or why. That was scary, because it's like, it's kind of bleak, because the only option is to keep cutting you open and getting this stuff out. And not all doctors are very sympathetic. And I also learned from, my mom told me about a thing called Endo March, where you go, I'm pretty sure it's every March. And before the pandemic, they were in person. It was like, it's kind of like a conference for people with endometriosis, and you can hear from doctors and talk to other people with the disease. And I heard from women who have the disease that a lot of doctors are going to prescribe you a medication called Lupron, which is worse than the symptoms. And I'm talking like every year a doctor mentioned Lupron, they would boo. Like, the crowd would boo. And so there was this disconnect, and I'm learning that there's often a disconnect between what the established practices are and what actually helps the patient. So I had to learn that finding a good doctor and finding people who had the disease were equally as important. Because a few years ago, I met someone who has, and we still talk, she has osteoporosis that was, what's it called? It was brought on by Lupron. And if I hadn't gone to those conferences, I might have said yes when a doctor told me that that's what I needed to be on. But since I'd heard about it, I said, no, I'm not doing that. So that educating myself and talking to other people with the disease helped a lot.
What would be advice you'd give to someone looking to understand a loved one who deals with chronic pain?
I would say Reddit is actually a good resource. There are threads for a lot of diseases on there, and I've seen people go on there and say, hey, my girlfriend has fibromyalgia, my girlfriend has endometriosis, how can I help her? Reddit, there's an app called the Medicie that is specifically for people with chronic pain or, chronic conditions to kind of network and just vent. A lot of it is venting, so I kind of had to get off of it because it can get kind of sad. But if you want to get kind of accounts from people, especially if they're like, if it's a disease that's kind of rare, I found that the Mighty is good for that. Also Instagram, and probably TikTok. I haven't delved into chronic pain on TikTok, but I've found friends on Instagram that I talk to often that have my conditions or similar conditions as me.
As a woman of color, when speaking on pain, how would you say you are viewed in the community?
In the medical community?
Just general. We're going to talk about general pop. That's the community that you deal with the most directly.
Well, in the Black community, there is this, you're expected to push through. You're expected to just keep pushing, keep moving, keep fighting through whatever problem you have. Like, you have to persevere. And I had a family member say that to me one time, like, you just got to push through. And I was like, I'll push through to a hospital stay. Like, chronic pain, like the chronic pain conditions aren't something, you can push it to a certain extent, but it's going to knock you down if you don't rest, if you don't take your medicine, if you don't, watch what you eat in certain circumstances. Like, I have to constantly gauge what is worth the risk. What was the question again? Real quick.
How are you viewed in the community when it comes to your expression of pain?
Sometimes it can be met with impatience, because it's like, okay, how long are you going to be dealing with this?
What's an example of that?
Like, I think often your loved ones just want you to be okay. And when you're not okay, that stresses them out sometimes more than you. And it can be an added weight to try to comfort them and also take care of yourself. And that's not a situation, it's not a good situation to be in. You can't comfort someone else through your pain while also taking care of yourself while you're in pain. So sometimes you have to have uncomfortable conversations with the people who love you, and they have to decide whether being around you is something that they can handle. That's why when we started talking, I kind of told you immediately, like, yo, this is what I'm dealing with, because I don't want to waste my time, and I don't want to waste your time if being with someone who's in varying amounts of pain and is going to have like surgeries, a certain amount of surgery, who knows? So you have to kind of be honest with the people you love. And unfortunately, people can love you but not be able to handle that aspect of you in your life.
I think I've had to explain to folks that if and when you date someone with chronic pain, you have to realize that the pain that they're in, they don't have a choice, and not being in pain in and of itself is a privilege.
It is.
Because we get to choose to, you just take medicine and you'll get better, or we get to just rest, and rest does rejuvenate our bodies. Somebody with chronic pain you'll rest and you'll still wake up and it'd be like, oh, it's still here.
That's that's a big symptom of fibromyalgia is unrefreshing rest.
Speak more on that.
So if I get 8 hours of sleep every day, I wake up tired. Like just tired, just exhausted. Not exhausted, but very, very tired. If I don't get enough sleep, like for instance, I think it was it the night of the Super Bowl? I think it was Sunday night going into Monday. I went to bed at like 2 a.m. and I had to get up at 8 for work. And when that happens, your brain is working at even less of a capacity, reduced capacity, when you're already at a reduced capacity, and your pain goes up higher. So when I haven't been getting enough sleep, I can take my medicine, I can do what I'm supposed to do, but my pain isn't going to go down a certain amount because I haven't gotten enough sleep. But even when I do get enough sleep, I am not rested ever.
Emotionally speaking, how does someone with chronic pain handle that reality?
You have to have outlets, and you have to have things that are worth the risk, like things you look forward to. So for instance, I went to the Renaissance tour when it went to Philly, and the next few days were hell. They were rough, but it was one of the best experiences of my life. And you have to keep making happy memories, because a lot of your time is going to be spent in bed feeling like shit. So you can't have a life that is just that, because life won't feel like it's worth it. And it is very easy when you have, health problems, for life to not feel worth it. So you have to find what makes life worth it for you and engage in that, basically.
Do you view your chronic pain as something that's a part of you, or do you view it as something that you're dealing with?
I view it as something, I don't want to say it's a part of me, because I know that there is a solution somewhere. It just hasn't been found yet. So I guess it's just kind of something that's been thrust on me, and something I don't have a choice in right now. I don't, it's something I deal with, but I don't really like to say that it's a part of me. And other people might feel differently, but that's just me. There are people who will say they have pride in their disability, and I am disabled. It's kind of hard. It's hard to think that way, because when we're conditioned to think that people who are disabled are visibly disabled. But I have fibromyalgia is what's called a dynamic disability, meaning sometimes you can function really, really well and you can't tell that something's wrong. But if you exert yourself, it gets to a point where, like, you might need a cane. You might be walking really rough. Like, you might not be able to walk anymore at all. So I've had to kind of retrain my brain into, like, yeah, you're disabled. Like, earlier today, I was in so much pain. I had shortness of breath because it snowed today. So yeah, I had to kind of retrain myself to to remind myself that just because I am not obviously sick does not mean I am not very sick.
What's an invisible disability?
An invisible disability is a disability that is not obvious. So fibromyalgia, it feels a lot like the flu. In fact, I got the flu and then the fibromyalgia symptoms came back. They came a month later and I thought I had the flu again because that's how similar it felt. And fibromyalgia can be brought on by trauma or like really bad sickness. And at that time in my life, that was the sickest I had ever been. Outside of like endometriosis, that was the sickest I'd ever been. And what was the question again?
What is an invisible disability?
It's a disability. It's something that impairs. You're basically impaired, but it is not obvious. So every move I make hurts. Right now, my lower back hurts. The back of this arm hurts. My shoulder kind of hurts. My knees hurt. But once, it's kind of weird, but when you've been dealing with a certain amount of pain for a certain amount of time, it kind of gets relative. So your cap to how much you can do with pain can be here, but then after 3 years it could be here because you've had it so long. So I wash dishes, I do my laundry, I work from home, I go grocery shopping. I try not to. That grocery shopping is difficult, but like for instance, I've learned that if I'm going to run errands, there needs to be a cap of 3 stops. In 3 stops, I'm still going to have to go home and lay down for a while. So I have a sticker on my car and I need to replace it. You told me I need to replace it. That says not every disability is visible, because I worry that people will look at me and assume that I'm just using my grandmother's handicap or I lied or something like that. So there are some people who do that, who will park and shouldn't be parking there because they're healthy. But there are also a lot of people like me who have chronic pain, but it's just not obvious. And I have to treat movement like a poor person treats money. Like it's like counting every penny. I have to count every step and, balance it against what I have to do that day. So like if I'm at the grocery store and I've gone from one end to the other getting my stuff, and then I realize that I forgot something on the other side, that makes me really anxious, because that could mean I can't go anywhere else that day. Just going to the other side of the grocery store can mean, oh, I need to go home. I can't go to the other place I meant to go today. So that is what an invisible disability is.
What are the name of these shoes?
Women's classic leather Reeboks. I've had these for, I don't even remember where I got it and when. It's been a really long time.
What do you expect from your everyday shoe?
Just be comfortable and don't make me trip. That's all I can ask, really. That's good enough. And I like to be cute. That would also be nice.
You be tripping?
Yeah, I be tripping.
You be tripping a lot?
Mostly when I'm tired. When I'm tired, my balance gets a little wobbly. Yeah, it's mostly when I'm tired. Also, sometimes if I'm in a certain shoe, I've had to get rid of shoes because I find myself like wobbling or tripping more often. So yeah.
Does that make you a fall risk?
I don't know if I trip enough to be a fall risk, but there have been times in my life where I have been a fall risk. I took an antibiotic a few years ago and my body didn't like it so much that it started attacking my red blood cells. Like my white blood cells were attacking my red blood cells, and that was some scary shit. They still haven't figured out why that was, like specifically. But while I was in the hospital for a week, and I was a fall risk then.
Can you tell me about the spoon? What is it?
Spoon theory?
Spoon theory.
So I'm not crazy about it, but it's what chronically ill people use. I think it was probably started by a white person, which, whatever. But basically, your spoons, it's like everyone gets a certain amount of spoons a day, and your spoons are your energy, your physical capacity, your physical and mental capacity to do things.
I don't have the capacity.
I don't have the capacity. So someone my age, because people my age have back pain. People my age be having joint pain and stuff. Let's say mopping your apartment. A regular person, let's say everyone gets five spoons a day. Let's say a regular person, that takes like a third of a spoon. For me, that's 3. And I might not manage it. It actually might be 4, and I need to lay down, and I might not be able to do much else the rest of the day. But let's say it's just sitting on the couch and working from home. For a regular person, I don't know, maybe that's what it's been so long since I've been a regular person, because there were times that endometriosis didn't bother me at all. So I was kind of like, it was kind of like I was normal or healthy. But it's been so long that I kind of don't have a good gauge for that anymore. I just know for me, like during the middle of the day, I have to go lay down for a bit. Did
you say enduring or during?
During the middle of the day. So
okay.
At some point during the day, I try to lay down for a bit because my back starts hurting. And working from home tires me out. It really does. And you would think just sitting and typing would not be that big a deal, but I be tired afterwards. So for me, working from home is like 3 spoons out of my 5. So the spoon theory is that people with chronic pain, it takes a lot more for them to do less than it takes a healthy person of the same age.
How much medicine do you take in a day?
Ooh. I take pain medicine. I take 2, 4, 6, 12 a day. And I'm not even on like narcotics or anything. And then I take medication. Fibromyalgia is kind of like your nerves. it's like your nervous system is one of those kids that you kind of just, you poke them a little bit and they start crying. Like they're just ridiculously dramatic. Fibromyalgia, I could bump my knee, and where someone else, it wouldn't even bother them, my knee would ache for the next few hours. So it creates pain where there shouldn't be pain, and where there should be pain, it amplifies it. That's just two of the symptoms, and there's a lot of them. But I take medication that kind of calms my nervous system down a little bit, and I take 3 of those a day. I also have a bladder condition that most women with endometriosis have, called interstitial cystitis, and its symptoms are very similar to a UTI. And I actually found out about that condition from other people with endometriosis, because I kept going to my doctor saying, I think I have a UTI, and then it would come up, negative. So,
for those who don't know, what's a UTI?
A urinary tract infection. So women get them more often than men, but it's like burning, and either you really have to pee or you can't pee. I take medicine for that. That's 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we're at 16 pills. And I think that's it. Yeah, I think I take 16 pills throughout the day.
Plus birth control.
Oh shoot, I forgot about that. So that's 20. I take 20 pills. I take like 3 different hormones to control to make my uterus chill out. Ooh.
When taking all this medicine, how does someone that suffers from consistent symptoms of brain fog keep track?
One thing that's been really helpful, particularly with my pain medicine, there are these pill bottles that you can get called timer cap. And what they do is they display how much time has passed since you open them. So one of my pain medications I take every 12 hours, and one I take every 8 hours. So I can just look at the bottle and be like, okay, I have 2 more hours, and then I can take this medication. Fortunately, I've been taking birth control since I was 14, and it's become, I've always taken it at night. They told me to take it in the morning, but for some reason I was always forget. So I take it at night, and it's become such a routine that if I forget to take it, I will not be able to fall asleep. But at a certain point, my endometriosis got worse to the point where if I don't take my birth control at the exact same time, like within a half an hour, my cramps come back. So I have an alarm set every night for the same time to take my birth control. And what else? I think those are the main things that help me remember to take my medication.
Which experience would you say has been the most challenging, endometriosis or fibromyalgia?
Ooh. That's hard because the pain from endometriosis is worse. People have compared it to childbirth. Like there have been people who have endometriosis that have given birth and have said like it felt exactly the same. And being a kid and experiencing that and not knowing why, and the people around you not really showing urgency, that was very hard. And it kind of instilled in me a hyper independence, a kind of like, you need to depend on you because you will believe you. You know how bad this is. And I've seen people talk lately about how the tools that got you to a certain place, sometimes you need to let go of them. Like, they're not going to help you moving forward. So I'm trying to dismantle or like let go a bit of my hyper independence. I need to do this myself, because I do have people who will help me and who believe me. But then with fibromyalgia, that is an everyday constant thing, and there's so many symptoms. Like I get migraines if I'm in loud places for too long, so I have to make sure my AirPods are on me all the time because the noise canceling helps me. I have to make sure I get enough sleep because that also causes migraines.
Sharp noises, like the PG Lane commercial with the beeps.
Oh my gosh, like noise.
Yeah.
Sometimes
pitches,
like high pitched noise, it's painful. I've gotten like more sensitive to noise, like certain noises. Fibromyalgia has a very long list of symptoms, and for a while I was getting new ones like every month. And I remember one time I was out with my family and I had been dealing with, I think it was the noise thing. And I was in the store with my family, and I realized that because I felt like everyone was so loud, and I was asking people, like, why are you talking so loud? It was my hearing had gotten, and it's not even better, it's just more sensitive, and that's hard to explain, but I don't hear people better. So
you don't get like superpowers, you just get the negatives of whatever the thing is.
When I got to the car, because some of my family was still in the car, I was hysterically crying because I was just being bombarded with new symptom after new symptom. And I don't remember if I think I had my diagnosis at that point, but it was still terrifying.
Do you remember how old you were?
I think I was like 27, because I know I did, the fibromyalgia started in like late in the year, like November. And it was kind of springtime when the other symptoms started showing up. I think I was like 26, 27. And so like fibromyalgia it's daily and it's unpredictable. I have to look at the weather all the time because rain or snow or cold, those make my symptoms worse. I've started getting like really bad anxiety in the fall because I know winter is coming and my symptoms are going to be worse. So I can't say which one is worse, because endometriosis, I feel like it's more, the pain is worse, but it's not every day. Fibromyalgia is constant. So I honestly can't say which one is worse.
What would be 2 pieces of advice you'd give to someone who is in your position? Discovered chronic pain.
I would say, if you don't, not bad. If you don't know what it is, if you haven't gotten a diagnosis yet, do a ton of research. Join some groups, some chronic pain groups online, whether it's Reddit or the Mighty. And do not be afraid to fire your doctor. I I can't think of how many doctors it took for me to find one who believed, A, that my pain wasn't normal, and B, knew what it was. But it was a lot of them. It took 10 years for me, from the time that my endometriosis symptoms started to the time that I got diagnosed. That was 10 years, and that is average. I think it's probably getting better now, because when I was a kid, there were not commercials for endometriosis. There wasn't social media, not in the way that it was now. So there's much better ways to network. But I would say, if your doctor is not taking you seriously, find another one, and find people with similar symptoms to talk to. Because a lot of what I have learned about how to manage my disease has come from other people and not from my doctors.
How has the Trump administration and them wanting to dismantle healthcare in America scared you?
Ooh, man. Birth control and hormonal medicine is how I function. I would not be able to function every day without it.
Safe to say you wouldn't be alive right now.
That's possible. Endometriosis has been found in every part of the body. Fortunately for me, they haven't found it anywhere other than, my uterus region. But it's been found in people's brains.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's been found in every part, like lungs, everywhere. And they're starting with abortion, but their goal is to eliminate women's choice, and birth control is a part of that. It's a way for us to control our bodies, and for most of my life, I wasn't on birth control to not get pregnant. I was on birth control so that I could have a life and not be in excruciating, mind-blowing pain constantly. But it doesn't matter. It should be accessible for the people who need it for whatever reason. And it's very scary to me. It's very scary to me that how much abortion is the people who don't want abortion to be accessible, how much it's winning. Because abortion should be accessible, and also because I know birth control will be next. I fortunately have a pretty good job and pretty good health care, but the way things are going, I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea what's going to happen. It's kind of hard. I try not to think about it too much. Because if I think too hard about what my life would be like if I didn't have access to the medications I have access to, and I have a lot of experience of being a Black woman in hospitals having chronic pain, and you are not taken seriously, especially if there's something, if the pain is being caused by something that isn't fixable. So for instance, if you have a broken leg, oh, okay, obviously you have a broken leg, you need pain medicine for that, and eventually it's going to be fixed and you won't need the pain medicine anymore. But if you have fibromyalgia, which isn't degenerative, it doesn't damage your body, it literally just creates pain. You kind of, and even before that with endometriosis, before and after I got the diagnosis, a lot of times it would be like, okay, what do you want us to do? You get treated like someone who just wants some narcotics, which you kind of do, because you're in so much pain you can barely talk. But if your disease is one that doesn't have an end or a solution, you get kind of shoved to, like, I have spent hours and hours in ERs while they kind of ignore you just to be taken you know, to the back finally, and they say, okay, well, we can give you Tylenol. Like, if Tylenol worked, I wouldn't be here. So the idea of having that pain all the time and being at the mercy of ERs, like, now you see me, when I have to go to the ER, I damn near have a panic attack because of all the times I've gone, starting from when I was 11, in screaming, rocking pain, and having nurses and doctors looking at you like you're crazy for even being there. So that is, it's very, very scary to me.
How has social media helped those with chronic pain?
Oh my gosh, it's been amazing. Like, sex with endometriosis, for a lot of reasons, can be tricky and difficult, and sometimes you can't do it at all.
Gotta explain.
Okay. So when you are 11 years old, 9 times out of 10, you're not, at least for me, I was not thinking about sex. Like, boys were still damn near icky to me. So when you are that age and you start having excruciating pain located where your vagina is, and you have that for years and years and years, when you think of that body part, or when anything comes near that body part, it's like, it's a trauma response. It's pain. Like, I had to go to physical therapy specifically for, it's called pelvic floor therapy, and it's helpful for women, not just who have reproductive diseases. It's helpful for, you know, women who are perfectly healthy do exercises with their pelvic floor, but particularly with people with my condition, that whole area just gets like tense and tight and painful, and it doesn't want anything near it. So there's medications, and there's should I go into the I don't know if I want to be that specific, but it would help, I guess.
I mean, it's up to you. It's your comfort zone. If you're like, nah, they're good. But if you're like, hey, this might help somebody.
So basically what they give you, mm-hmm. and what I had to use, it's basically a dildo, but it's like those Russian dolls, mm-hmm. that, like, you open it and one gets smaller and smaller, and you just have to touch yourself with it. Like, you have to, your body has to get used to the idea that not everything about that area is bad and pain and awful, mm-hmm. and that takes some time
and a lot of inner working voice, and a lot of,
oh my gosh,
private time. And then you probably had to come from a place of figuring out, can I be happy doing this and not feel guilty from the pain associated with it? Yeah.
And like, it was hard, because it's like, okay, if I can't have sex, is someone going to want me? But there are other ways to have fun, honestly. And what I learned from social media and not from my doctors is there are things called lube that have CBD in them. So I've worked on myself. I've worked a lot and I've come a long way, but it can still be painful. But CBD lube.
There's a pun in the cum part, but also you had a partner that was willing to work with you too.
Yes, that is very, very important. Patience and creativity. And sometimes you gotta figure out, it takes some time sometimes to figure out what works with you. Like the first lube we used, I had to switch because you were allergic to it.
Yeah.
So we found one.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
That was crazy for me to be like, oh, wow.
That was wild.
Raw dog, no lube. This is crazy.
And then afterwards, sometimes even though it's great and you feel great, sometimes you're sore afterwards. In that case, there are CBD suppositories. And now they sell them at Ulta.
But also being sore after intercourse, you then have the fear of, hey, is it sore because of what we did, or is there something wrong and that's why we're sore?
That's true. And you have to kind of, you have to know your body. Like people with chronic pain.
Yeah.
When you have chronic pain, especially if it's constant, you are constantly scanning your body for every twinge, every weird feeling, and you're trying to dissect where it came from. But social media has helped because for learning about products that can help me and improve my quality of life, but also as considerate and loving and kind as the people in your life can be, there are certain things they just won't understand.
Give me 2 examples.
Okay. I have an uncle who has a spinal cord, they call it a spinal cord injury. He is, what's it called?
Paralyzed?
Paralyzed from like here down.
Yeah.
And he also has nerve pain, which is what a lot of what fibromyalgia is. And so we both have chronic pain.
But
and when I visit him, it's usually with my mom, we can get dark.
You and him?
Yes.
In conversation?
Yes, just jokes like, oh, man, kill me now. Like, it's snowing for 2 days next week. Like, and it's not serious.
But it comes from reality.
It comes from reality. Like, when you have chronic pain, and you know it's not going to kill you, or it might take a long time to kill you, your life can feel very, very long.
Yeah.
And my mom will look at us kind of nervous, but also knowing like this is how they joke and this is how they need to talk this way.
And that's what coping looks like for you guys.
Yeah.
Mutually.
And I have a couple people that on Instagram that I talk to like almost every day, and we'll be like, oh, how are you feeling? Like, I heard it's supposed to snow up there. Yeah, man, I had to get someone else to walk my dog because I couldn't do it. Like, that helps because I found the disconnect between healthy people and me can feel a lot as big as the disconnect between white people and black people.
How so?
Like, if a white person studies black culture, like has a PhD in black history, and like all that, they're still not going to get what it's like to live as a black person. Someone you love could have seen you your whole life, seen you deal with all the health problems, or you know, all that, and they still do not get, they have an idea, but they do not get, like, for instance, the morbid jokes that me and my chronically ill friends will have with each other, it would make someone else nervous because they think that we're suicidal. Yeah. We're not suicidal, but when you feel like your body is trying to kill itself all the time, you're going to get a little twisted.
Some of y'all be playing into it heavy.
Damon Wayans, the bald one.
Mm-hmm.
I saw an interview with him recently where the interviewer was mentioning his clubfoot. And he was like, yeah, she said, but they fixed it, right? He was like, no. And she was shocked. And he was like, no, I deal with it. And he was like, within my family, they joke that my humor is darker than everyone else's because I am constantly dealing with this pain. And when I saw that, it was so funny because the interviewer, she looked so shocked that it wasn't just something that was nipped in the bud. Because sometimes things can't be nipped in the bud.
And also the assumption is if you have money and fame, why wouldn't you take care of that?
Yeah.
And not everything has a solution.
Yeah. Like there was one of those really extremely rich people, like wealthy billionaire people. They put a lot of money into a medical condition. I don't remember what it was, but there were huge advances made with that condition because there was no cure. And it just goes to show, like, just because you have money, he ended up dying. I'm almost positive he's dead now. But sometimes there is not a solution and you just have to find a way to live.
What's it like to walk a day in your shoes?
Painful, uncomfortable. But this has also taught me to, like, when I have a good moment, and not necessarily a low pain moment, but a happy moment, to just kind of soak it in. Like, sometimes I won't even like try to take a picture, or I'll just try to remember everything about that moment, because they're much more important when you're trying to remind yourself, your daily, like, moment to moment, trying to remind yourself why life is worth living. Yeah.
Did you always want to live, or did you have to learn that you want to live?
I think I've had to learn it. I've had to relearn it in certain parts of my life. There were 2 or 3 months between when I developed my fibro symptoms and when I got diagnosed and got put on pain medication, that, like, life was really, really dark, because my whole fibromyalgia is just pain over your whole body. And sometimes I remind myself, it's kind of a sad reminder, but I'll think about how much pain I'm in, and I'm like, this is with nerve medication and 2 pain medications. I feel like this. What was the question you asked me?
Did you always want to live, or did you have to learn that you want to live?
Oh, during that time, it was very hard to want to keep going. And then last year, my endometriosis was worse than before I got diagnosed. Like, that was a scary ass time. And then, you know, I had 2 surgeries last year, and after the first one, they thought I had found cancer. They thought that they had found cancer.
Oh, man.
That was hard as hell. And I had to wait. How long did we wait?
It was a month.
I had to wait a month.
Yeah, to get the news. It was a month to a month and a half to get the news, for them to let us know what's going on.
To find out whether I had cancer or not.
After dealing with all this.
Yeah, and then and it's like, oh, yeah, you don't have cancer, but you need another surgery. And the doctor that you really, really like, it took years and years for you to find, he's not going to be able to do it. Like that was a very, very hard time in my life. Yeah, there are times where I just have to remind myself that it's temporary, or just hope that it's temporary. Like, okay, just make it to the surgery. Okay, just make it to the next surgery. Okay, find a doctor. Just keep looking for doctors. Okay, this one didn't believe you. Okay, find another doctor. There's going to be one. There's going to be one. There's going to be one who knows what this is and is going to be able to diagnose it. You've been through this before, where you're not sure what you have, but it's something. Something's wrong. So you kind of go through waves where, okay, life is your version of normal, and oh, this shit is scary. What is this? And then also you have to kind of learn. I had to learn to be honest about how I'm feeling in those times, because it's hard for the people around you, but you can't hold all of that within yourself.
Yeah, but you also needed a different environment.
Oh yeah.
You needed an environment that allowed you to be honest and not have to comfort people when you're already in pain.
That's true. If like even on regular days, it takes so much of my mental and emotional bandwidth to just get through the regular shit of a day.
Yeah.
And I've had to kind of limit how much I talk to certain people, or like when I talk to certain people, because if my pain is bad and they hear that my pain is bad, and I don't know if this is me, if this is a trauma response, but I've always been very, very sensitive to the emotions of other people. So I can tell them immediately if you're like feeling depressed because my pain is bad. And I know that probably sounds weird, because if you love someone, of course you're not going to, it's going to be hard for you to be calm when they are not okay. But my best friend I've had since like I was 15. We've been friends since I was 15.
We speaking on Big B?
Big B.
Big B, I bet.
She taught me that, like, oh, I don't have to, so I don't gotta comfort you through my shit.
Nah. Hell nah.
Like there was this one time I typically back then, before I got diagnosed, when I was on my period, I didn't go anywhere. Like I just stayed at home where I was near my bed. But my friend invited me out. I really wanted to go, and I was fine until I got on the metro to go home, and the pain got bad, and I was screaming and crying. I didn't know what was going on around me. I was embarrassed, but I couldn't help it. And my friend was just kind of rubbing my back and saying, my mom is almost here. My mom was always here. And she didn't say it's going to be okay. And I appreciated that, because sometimes telling someone, oh, it's fine. Like, no, it's not. It's not. Like, it's like, oh, she was like, oh, my mom is coming. Apparently she was also giving the evil eye to the other kids, the other people on the train,
which
who were staring at me.
Yeah.
But that taught me, like, oh, this is what I should expect. I shouldn't expect people to tell me, oh, well, you need to deal with it, or, well, you're just going to have to, because it's important to not pretend it isn't bad. You can't wallow, but toxic positive, you got to find a medium between those two things.
Being someone with chronic pain means you can't exist in environments that people don't allow you to put yourself first.
Yes. And that's not to say that there won't be times where the people you love won't need you and you won't show up for them.
Of course. But you don't get to negotiate pain.
No.
And when pain shows up, I can't be in pain and worry about, well, why do you look sad? I'm in pain.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Always put yourself first. You've heard me say that. I've said it to you. I said, hey, whether we're in a relationship or not, under no circumstances should you never put yourself first.
And it's funny because when you first told me that, I knew you were telling me that because you telling me to not put myself first. Like if you tell some people to not put themselves first, they're going to be selfish as hell.
Yeah.
But I tend to be self-sacrificing.
No.
So telling me to put myself first,
Yeah.
It's like I do remind myself of that. Like on nights where I really want to get the dishes done.
Or nights that the steak is delivered and it's piping hot and I say, hey, whether I show up or not, you should go ahead and enjoy that. Because like, how many times are you going to be able to enjoy this thing? We're not guaranteed tomorrow.
Yeah.
And with your personality, unfortunately, because you sacrifice so much, you do need someone in your ear that says, hey, fuck that. Go do the thing.
It's very helpful.
I'm never going to guilt trip you for doing the thing. Or if you do something messed up, we're very good at, hey, let's talk about it. We have genuine miscommunication, not the kind of miscommunication where you could tell the person's being petty and you're trying to make space for what's going on.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's a blessing.
It's funny because I remember one time you joked about like if you had done something, you would just come home and my stuff would be gone, and I was like,
Yeah.
I
don't remember what it is because I think in the relationship I do a pretty good job, but like you know, there's always room for improvement. But
it was something like outrageous, like something that I knew you wouldn't do.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, you know, it's my job in the relationship, and it's your job for us to check in and be like, hey, man, are we good? Because if we're not good, I think it's okay if you're not good. You really just got to ask the question, are you willing to work on it? And if you're not willing to work on it, if you don't have the capacity to work on it, then it's all right to be like, all right, well, you think we could get this later down the road? Or is it okay to just be like, well, we tried?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why, you know, the 30% rule where I say it's okay. Yeah. Like people will only change by 30%. They're going to keep the 70. So you got to figure out what that 70% is. And if you're not okay with the 70, hey, it's okay to be like, hey, I'm out. This has been fun. It's just been a trip. All right, one more question and then we're done.
Okay.
As someone with chronic pain and as someone that has given so much to the people around them, what's one lesson you've come to learn that has eased your journey with chronic pain?
Things are always changing. Like, I just found out recently about a new medication that people with fibromyalgia have tried, and their symptoms have gotten a lot better. And this is from a Reddit thread.
Always Reddit.
It's Reddit.
Never
it's
the news.
Reddit, and I'm mad.
Reddit is social media too.
Yeah,
that's a social media outlet.
It's social media.
Yeah.
Like, there was a time where I was worried that I would never be able to have like P and vagina sex. You know what that is, right?
Penis and vagina.
Yeah, because
like as in like insertion.
Yes.
So you never thought you'd be able to do penetration.
There was a time I was worried I wouldn't be able to do it.
I mean, it was a mutual fear. We were both like, "Hey, man, we're trying. We're trying all the things." You know, that was a weird time in my life. Well, no, weird's not the best choice of words. I'd say that was a fascinating time in my life because as someone who is what would be considered a big freak, I had to really ask myself, hey, do you have patience to do it with someone who technically can't do it, right? And are you going to be able to be the caring person they need you to be if our attempts don't yield results? Mm-hmm. And I think at that time, which is a rule we kind of keep in our relationship right now, is, hey man, just make sure it's fun.
Yeah.
I stress that so much. I hate hearing about relationships that fall apart, and it's like, well, what happened to the fun? Well, you know, all these things. It's like, yeah, no, the things are going to happen, but fun is a choice and it's a practice. So was there fun in the relationship or as you figured things out?
And then like lube with CBD in it, I don't know how long it's been around,
Mm-hmm.
but
that's a recent thing.
It's recent.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's...
Younger you never had access to that.
Yeah, and there's...
As in younger you before you got to me, not like back in the day stuff, so...
And honestly, I was like, okay, like when I kind of got the implications of having endometriosis, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna have to get really good at other stuff. Mm-hmm. Like...
Yeah, but you also had to get comfortable with the concept of doing other things too.
That's true.
Because when we first met, you were very like, I don't do this, and I do this. And it was like,
oh no.
Oh, okay, well, let's take our time and see what happens. And I mean, you know, you have an amazing capacity to perform. Perform. It's a huge compliment. We talk about this often.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. You just, you know, sometimes you pay for a movie and you're disappointed, and I've never been disappointed in any of your movies. Or the flicks or the commercials or anything else. Like every day is the Super Bowl.
See, what was I talking about? You just got me distracted.
Oh. You mean the question?
Maybe.
Do you remember what the question is, or do you need me to repeat the question?
Repeat the question.
What's the greatest lesson that you've learned as someone who deals with chronic pain and someone who's so giving in their journey?
I've learned that, like, just from my body stopped being normal at 11.
Which is scary.
Yeah.
Because your baseline is technically pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there were long stretches where I was okay. Like after surgeries, I would be okay for a while. Mm-hmm. So I managed to get a degree, like finish high school. Things. Yeah, I've accomplished things. Fortunately, the breaks in my condition allowed me to accomplish things. But then also I've seen things change. Like I remember the first time I saw a commercial for endometriosis, I was like, this is amazing.
Just the acknowledgement.
Yeah, like the acknowledgement that, because there was this mindset that cramps are cramps. Everyone gets cramps. Mm-hmm. Like, walk it off. One of my grandmother's friends told me that it'll get better after my first kid. And I was a child at the time. And I'm like, how does that help me now? So
a child.
I was
a child.
Like if I was a
kid.
If I was a more sassy child and wasn't afraid of getting slapped by my grandmother, I would have been like, oh, so I should get pregnant then? Should I go and get pregnant?
Yeah, no, I could just go in the back right now. I'm gonna see if they got some of that in the back.
So I'm not going through hell every month anymore?
Hey, y'all got pregnancies in stock?
You got a grandson? Like what? But I've seen so much change, and then also it's kind of taught me, for my health, I cannot be but so self-sacrificial. Like it gets to a point where everyone is okay because of you, but you are not okay anymore.
And that's toxic.
That's toxic.
That's self-sacrificing. It's toxic.
Yeah.
And it's not fun. And unfortunately, which, you know, this is a very important lesson, You don't get paid for your sacrifice.
No, you just get expected to sacrifice more.
And what's most dangerous is it kind of resets how people are supposed to care for you, and people thinking the wrong things and behaviors are okay.
Yeah.
And that's a whole separate fight and discussion.
Ooh, yes it is.
Yeah.
Yes it is.
I'm proud of you. I think you've done an amazing job.
Thank you.
Living. And you know, I'm very, and I know this isn't comfortable to hear from your significant other, but whether you're with me or not, I just want to see you be happy and be able to enjoy whatever happiness you find. You get me? That's like the most important thing to me is not life, but living and enjoying what you have.
Yeah, I think one of the keys to that is not comparing, because you can look at your friends or even people online who are your age and doing things that you can't do, or you can't do much of, or you don't know if it'll ever be you. And you kind of it's like you have to adjust your expectations, but also have things to aspire to, like things to look forward to.
Yeah.
I am always in pain, and this is a day in my shoes.